Hello, Blood Wash Church. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm not going to do a traditional teaching as I would normally do. What I'm going to ask you to do is look at the posts that I put on the Facebook website, and it's the teaching from this past Friday, March 8th, where Dr. Winston delivered a word. And for Detroit, I'm saying it was specifically for Detroit. I know he might teach that message other places, but the Lord had a word for us. I'm going to ask you to listen to that teaching and listen to it again. Listen to it again. This message, this will is pivotal because there were nuggets given in that teaching that will launch us into where we're going in the city of Detroit. I've shared the vision that God has given me, the call that He has placed on my life, and it is to reach Detroit. And so He's given instruction through His servant, through His vessel, as how to do it. Now, what I want to do is share with you a vision that Carlton Pearson gave. Now, this was years ago. This is at the height of his ministry. And he was actually on Trinity Broadcasting Network when he gave this. And if someone has this, you might have it recorded. Will you send it to me? Will you share it with me? Well, what Carlton Pearson said is that he was in a Olympic-sized stadium, an arena, just like you would see at the Olympics. And there were people lined up. They were getting ready. It was like they were running track or long distance running. And he said they took off running, and he said there were all different races there. And people took off, and they were just going, just running laps around this ring. And he said that this black person was so far behind that it just looked impossible, that they might as well just get out of the race. They are not even in the competition. And he said, though, and this is another thing that he said, that when he was in the arena, he said Jesus was sitting next to him, and this is a vision. And he said Jesus was just looking straight ahead. And he said all of a sudden, this black man just started running. And he said it was just at a supernatural pace, where before it looked like he was so far behind, he might as well drop out of the race, that he just started running. And Carlton Pearson said, he said to himself, well, wow, if this man keeps running like this, he's going to catch up with them. And he said the man just kept running at this supernatural pace. It was not a natural human pace that the man was running. And he said again, wow, if this man keeps running like this, he's going to catch up. And he kept running. And then he said the crowd got in it and just started cheering the man. And he says, if this man keeps running like this, he's going to catch up. And he said that lo and behold, miraculous, the man started running so fast, that he caught up. And at the end of the race, he said he was actually ahead. And he said the crowd, the stadium, he said everybody, he said they were screaming, they were hollering. He says it was just, people were just shouting at the top of their lungs. And he was standing up. He said he sat down and he turned around and he said, then he looked, because he remembered what Jesus is sitting here. And he said Jesus turned his face and looked at him and said, this is the black man's finest hour. He said Jesus told him that blacks are going to take the teaching of faith and do miraculous things, unheard of things. Now, am I saying this because I'm racist? Absolutely not. Let me make it clear. If you leave this planet without Jesus and you go to hell, you go to that lake of fire, it's going to be all different races there with you. If you accept the provision of what the Lord has provided for us, the Lord Jesus, and accept salvation, and you go to heaven, all different races will be there, and we will not be segregated. So this is not a racist message. The reason I'm bringing this up is because God has called me to Detroit. And so let's look at what's going on in Detroit. 78% of Detroit's population is black. So when I heard that vision, and see, it is so good, hang on to a word. Hang on to a word. Hang on to a word. And so that resonated with me to give me hope for what I knew the Lord was telling me to do, to give me faith, to give me vision. So the 78% of Detroit's population is black. It's the highest proportion of blacks of any city in the United States. 33.8% of people in Detroit are living in poverty. 57% of the children under the age of 18 live below the federal poverty line. So I'm going to bring to your remembrance, if you've been following me, the word that the Lord spoke to me. Things will be done in Detroit that people will say it's impossible to be done. What are the words that you have heard spoken over Detroit? Perhaps you said some nasty, mean, ugly things over the city. Just repent. All is forgiven. But the question is, so the Lord has said, Detroit will be a model city. Things will be done that people will say is impossible. So we're going to run this race. And we're going to do it, and we're going to excel. But now how is this going to happen? Now let me ask you, is God going to drop some money out of the sky to eradicate poverty in Detroit? Absolutely not. Because if he rains some money out of the sky, it will be counterfeit because the money's down here. There has to be there's a tracking system on the money here, a serial number. So he's not going to rain money down. And if he did rain money down, let's say if he did put some serial numbers on it and just drop money down, without a renewed mind, that money will be gone in 1 year. You know the statistics, people that win the lottery, millions of dollars, 5 years, most of them are broke again. Many in worse condition than they were before they won the lottery. Because if you don't know how to handle money, if your mind has not been renewed, you'll just be in the same place. So now, what God is going to do, we've been talking about the blessing, that the blessing is on us, but we have to get some understanding. We have to get some understanding with that. And as I mentioned earlier, it's no question God sent the prophet to drop that message here, to tell us this is how you're going to do it. But I'm also going to bring up the Business Leadership Conference. And that's going to be held this week, this upcoming week. And I just want to tell you that it's free. There are no excuses. It's free. So I'm asking you, if it's in you, if you're catching this, that the spirit of faith, what the Lord is saying, what he wants for this Tri-County area, what he wants for Detroit. Okay, I'm asking you, catch that vision and then do something. Because conferences like this, these things are designed by God to help his people. We're his children. As a parent, don't you do everything within your means to help your children, to give your children the best education possible? As a widow, I wanted the best education for my children. I was driving a car over 200,000 miles on it. And I know I would go to work, and remember, I'm working in a school system, and they got some nice cars. Many of the people married to two-income home, and then the Lord had me to take a lower kind of position, so I wasn't even bringing in the money that I could have brought in. But so I'm driving this old car because I I want my children to go to the best college possible. So, yep, they talked about me. Good news is they talked about me to my face. When are you going to get rid of that old hoopty? So then I got the car painted. It was an old van. I said, well, maybe they won't talk about it so bad I can get it painted. They talked about it worse. It's still an old van with just with a paint job on it. So I'm saying all that to say this, is that the Father loves us. We're his children, and he wants us educated. He's giving us his best. So let me tell you about this free conference, free 99. Let me tell you about some of the previous speakers. Peter Daniels, who his worth is estimated at $3 billion. That's billion with a B. Byron Allen, a couple months ago, I talked about his testimony. This man was born right here in Detroit. His net worth is $800 million. Michelle Hoskins, who owns Michelle Foods, and you can find her product, her syrup, in more than 8,000 retail stores, including Kroger. Right here, we have Kroger here locally. These are just a few of the kind of the caliber of people that are coming in giving you tips of success. Now, I'm not running a business, but I am running a business because I'm running God's business. And I take this seriously. So I go to that conference and I'm getting tips, I'm getting information how to do things because these are leaders. These are leaders. He's even brought in people from other countries. So I'm sitting there and I'm taking all of this information. How can I apply this to my ministry? How can I excel in my ministry? How can I take with these people this information, this knowledge they have? How can I take this and internalize it and produce it and produce what God has called me to produce? So I'm saying that make provision to attend this conference. You could attend in person, Chicago, right from Detroit, Chicago, on, let's say traffic is heavy or whatever, it might be 5 hours. Traffic, if you're rush hour traffic, most days it's going to take about 4 hours with just normal traffic. But if you say, well, I don't have the money. You talked about the poverty in Detroit. I don't have the money to pay for a hotel. Did you know I understand that? Well, then it's online, free. All you have to do is register. And I want to point out, we have to change our mentality. Now, since he's called me to Detroit, and I talked about the blacks in Detroit, I gave that statistics. I'm going to just say this. As blacks, we have to change our way of doing things. We have to change our way of not wanting to help one another. We have to change that mentality. I'm not going to help anybody else succeed. I'm going to be like the crab in the barrel. I see somebody rising up and I take them and I yank them down. We have to stop that. Because we do that, nobody's going anywhere. You're not, well, first of all, if you try to pull me down, I got the blessing on me. I got the word. But I'm saying what you're doing, you're pulling yourself down. Because the way God has designed things, he's put people in groups and families. And his design is for us to walk in love, to help one another. That's how he designed it. He's walking in love towards all of us. Christians and sinning. Christians and acting like he doesn't exist until we want something. He's still walking in love towards us. Okay, I'm going to be calm down and be sweet. Okay, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, is how it's so important that we help one another. I'm going to give you an example of one of my daughters who, she was in a private school, and a very... The private, when she went there, that school had the reputation that they could get you in Harvard. But now it was a Christian school. But that's just kind of letting you know just the academics and just how that school was, that they very competitive in a sense. So she went there, and she was just it was just only a few blacks there. So she was pretty much, just a handful. She was pretty much, you can maybe count on 1 or 2 hands. and they would take these rigorous courses, and she would just struggle. She would just struggle. And I know, and she would just say, well, Mom, the other groups of like race, she said, they get together and they study together. They get together and they study together. And again, there's not an ounce of racism in my heart, because, see, that's racism is of the devil. Any kind of negativity, that's of the devil. That is not in me. I'm just sharing this to give you an example of how unity works. And she was telling me that they would get together and then they would go and meet with the professor, the instructor, and they were excelling academically. And she was struggling, but she did graduate. Now, when she went to college, it was just like she blossomed, because she got with, and the college that she went to and the program that she was in, they graded on a bell curve. Because if you were in the school, you had to have had to test at a certain level to even get into school. So this one program, when they would give a test, well, of course everybody would get an A on the test, because it was kind of the high people with high academics. So what they did, they graded on the bell curve, so that everybody got an A on the test. But on the bell curve, the person that missed nothing, they were the ones that really got the A. And let's say if you miss one question, well, then you might have the B. You miss 3, you might have the C. So the bottom line is, somebody was going to get the A, somebody was going to get the C, and somebody was going to get the F. Somebody was going to fail that test. Although in another setting, if they weren't grading on this bell system, the F would have been an A. But I noticed, and it just blessed me so much to see that she got with a group of people, and they studied together. They studied together. They studied together, and every single person came up out of that school. Every single one of them. Unless I'm missing someone, they graduated. They graduated. They worked together. They worked together. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Those of you that follow me, stop this. Well, I'm just going to be out here. I'm just going to watch and see how things go. I'm going to be a lone ranger. No, work together. Support other ministries. You see me doing it. That doesn't mean that you like everything about the person, and you work together. I'm sure when she was in that group and they were going over in that statistics and going over those questions that might be on that exam, that doesn't mean that she liked every person that was sitting there in that group. Somebody might have had bad breath or whatever. They worked together and they came up out of that school. So I'm just going to end with this. Jump in. Jump in. Jump in. The Lord's word has gone forth over Detroit. He said what he wants to happen in the city of Detroit. And no one person is going to stop it. He's going to carry out that word whether you and I jump aboard or not. If we don't do it, he'll raise up somebody else. No one person is going to stop the show. Nobody is going to stop what God wants to do. I choose to be with him. I choose to latch onto the word and join with it. I want to be a part of the group that brings the vision to pass. And I'm going to ask you to be a part of the vision. I'm asking you, plan to tune in to that business leadership conference. The information you will get is invaluable. And for those of you that will be traveling to Chicago, I will see you there. And I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you. And I truly do love you. Bye-bye.